Welcome to the program here on Sugar Talk with Dr. K. Gene Lucas, who is in the studio with us from Diabetes and Endocrinology Consultants. And welcome, Doctor, to have you back here on the show. And also, you just had a successful outing with your diabetes school, right?
I went on the road this time, went to Swansboro and had over 80 people come. We had a nice snack. We had a cooking demonstration. Yeah, we had a cooking demonstration by the flame. So we had a good group and a lot of questions. So what we're going to do is talk a little bit about some of the questions people had at school.
And
some
then
questions
people get
can't
set
be
for
answered.
the next one, I guess, right? Because
the next one's in New Bern on June 4th at the Doubletree. And you can go to our website and sign up. Then we have one in Pine Knoll Shores at the aquarium in October 15th.
Okay, all right. So we'll get people set for those next ones. But let's talk about some of the questions. I'm sure you've heard most of everything that's been asked before, but what are the questions like?
Well, I think one of the more interesting ones is, can we cure diabetes? And that's sort of a tough question. There's two main types of diabetes. Type 1 is autoimmune destruction of the cells that make insulin, so you end up not making any insulin at all. And there's been lots of research about how to get the islet cells back in the body. Islet cells don't have to live in the pancreas, they can live anywhere. So if you take islet cells and you inject them in your body, usually they go and live in the liver, which is, they like the liver better. And they work around the liver and keep the liver from making extra sugar. But the trouble is that since it's an autoimmune disease, the type 1 actually make antibodies that kill these cells. Once any islet cells are introduced, the body just attacks them and kills them again. So it's a futile exercise. What they're trying to do is either coat the islet cells so that the immune system doesn't kill them, or put them in some type of matrix that protects them. But the trouble is, if you protect them too much, then they can't release insulin. So they can't release insulin, so you've got to have a mechanism by which they can release insulin. They're pretty sensitive cells to the sugar in the body, and so it would be nice to do that.
If you could cloak them in some way, right?
Yes. If you can mask them from the immune system. There's not really a way of killing the antibodies. Well, not yet, but if you could get rid of the antibodies, but there's multiple types of antibodies, and we can measure a couple of different kinds, but there's other ones, that attack the islet cells. So sometimes you measure one antibody, they don't have that, but they have another one. So you'd have to make an antibody against the antibody, and that's sort of hard to do if there's lots of antibodies that you don't even know what they are, the structure of them. So that's type 1. So type 1, there's no cure for right now. They're working on that. They've been working on it for a long time, though. Type 2 diabetes is a little more problematical because the genetic defect is that the body doesn't use insulin properly. So that is a genetic defect. There's over 300 genetic defects that cause the insulin resistance that starts off with type 2. So if you're trying to cure type 2, you would have to correct 300 genetic defects. And that's a little hard since we don't even know all the genetic defects that cause type 2. I think what most people want to know is, if I lose 5 pounds, will the diabetes go away? Right. And that's really sort of the plane that they're on. So you say,
I think that what some people think may be the promise of weight loss surgery, right?
Yes, and I think the surgeons have misled a lot of people. We'll get into that. The problem with diabetes is that it's a continuum. So you start off with the insulin resistance, and then gradually your pancreas wears out. So if you can actually stop that progression some way and prevent getting diabetes in the first place, because by the time you get diabetes, half your ability to make insulin is gone forever. And most people don't realize that. That's forever. That's like not going to come back. But if you catch it really early, and that's, I think the push now is because we've got drugs that actually probably do help prevent diabetes, but you have to get them early. And so there's this category called pre-diabetes. And pre-diabetes is the sugar's a little bit high, but not high enough to say that you had diabetes. If you can catch them at that, sometimes there's a reversal from pre-diabetes back to insulin resistance, but you still have the underlying genetic problem that caused it in the first place.
Right.
So it involves pretty much lifelong vigilance to try to keep everything controlled and keep your blood sugar controlled.
Right?
Yeah, and that's hard. I mean, behavior is always hard to change, and I think people try to change everything at once. They'll go on an exercise program and not eat any starches or sugars, and then they get burned out. I think small changes are going to be better. Small changes like don't go to the fast food place every single day, go 5 days a week instead of 7, or cut back on what you're doing slowly. And I think you make one change at a time, make it for 30 days or whatever, and then sort of do the next change. But if you try to change everything at once, your body rebels against that.
Mm-hmm.
And so making small changes over time is going to work out better.
But don't you think this question comes from a lot of things are online, or a lot of claims that people are making that they can cure diabetes?
Yeah, you can find the answer to any question online, whether it's true or not.
Whether it's a valid answer or not is another story.
I mean, people sell a lot of books, the diabetes cure. I mean, there's lots of books about that. It almost always talks about the same thing, about how you should exercise and diet, and if they're selling a supplement might help you cure diabetes, so you should buy that. You try to go to websites that don't sell anything.
Mm-hmm.
If you want, I mean, that's my sort of rule of thumb. If somebody's trying to sell you something, it's probably based on dubious information.
Well, that could be true for lots of our areas of life about advice, getting advice.
If somebody's trying to sell you something, but if they're trying to sell you a supplement or a program or exercise tape or whatever, I guess it's not a tape anymore, but if they're trying to sell you anything like that, then you have to sort of be wary. I don't mind the exercise CDs or anything like that, or the YouTube with exercise on it that you subscribe to, or even like dietary information. Mayo Clinic has a good diet site. MyFitnessPal sends you emails about diet information, which is pretty reliable. So a lot of the weight loss places don't really have anything necessarily to sell you. They're just giving you information.
Yeah, and like MyFitnessPal is a tracking program.
Yeah, now Under Armour owns them now.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So Under Armour does sell their clothes, but so what?
Yeah.
I mean, that they're selling clothes. They're not selling you supplements to try to cure diseases.
Mm-hmm.
That have never been proven to do anything.
But you have to succeed on your FitnessPal to fit in the Under Armour clothing.
Yeah, to look good in the Under Armour clothing.
It does not look good if you don't.
But that's a good incentive.
Yeah.
So I think that's good. No, I get an email every day from MyFitnessPal about different kinds of foods and recipes and exercises, and it's very informative. So I think some of the information online is very helpful.
Okay, we're talking to Dr. K. Jane Lucas from Diabetes and Endocrinology Consultants.